Welcome to the Facilitators Training for AACTS, the Generations Initiative. Now, either you're here because you have already purchased this curriculum for your church or organization, or you're thinking about purchasing it. Well, I'm here today to give you some tips on training as a facilitator and some of the best practices to help make your sessions go as smoothly as possible. The items that you have in your curriculum include the Facilitator's Guide, the Participants Workbook, 31 videos of the lessons, and also 4 bonus videos to be included and used at your discretion. As a facilitator, I recommend that your session 1 is your introduction session, and at that session you will play the DVD that shows Pastor Jasper Williams explaining and talking about his insight as to what led to the genesis of this AACTS curriculum. So make sure you play that video first. It will give your participants a really good understanding of what the entire curriculum is all about. Now, as a facilitator, it is very important that you are familiar with the information, the curriculum itself. So when you get your materials, you want to make sure that you look at all of the videos up front before ever facilitating your first group. Familiarize yourself with the parent workbook, the facilitator's guide, and the DVDs especially. When you are facilitating your sessions, you want to make sure that you cover some basic things. The number one thing is that there is a training framework. The training framework for the curriculum is in 3 parts. It is preparation, presentation, and participation. Let me tell you a little bit about the preparation component. The preparation component is some of the things that I've just mentioned, making sure that you are familiar with the materials, making sure that you have all of the materials that are going to be needed for your sessions, such as your handouts, your sign-in sheets, etc. The participation component or the presentation component, which is next, is the actual presentation of the lessons, which will be given in the DVD format by Sister Neely. You will make sure that you're familiar with those yourself. Also, in the event, you want to make sure that you know the materials or the equipment that you have, whether you have a laptop that plays DVDs or whether or not it needs to be converted to a USB drive. That's going to be important. So knowing your equipment ahead of time, knowing the material and having enough material for everyone ahead of time, all of these things are important to make sure that you have a successful session each time. Now back to the training framework. The preparation, the presentation, and then the participation. The participation component is where participants, parents, guardians have the opportunity to give feedback, to ask questions, to make sure that there's clarity in the information that's been presented to them. If you see where time is kind of getting away from you because you've got so many questions or so many participants wanting to give comments, make certain that you have what we call a parking lot system available for participants. Explain to participants that the parking lot is usually a flip chart or a board where they can write their questions on sticky tabs and place those questions that they don't get an opportunity to ask out loud. They can place those questions in that parking lot area. Let them know that those questions will be addressed and answered hopefully before or at the end of that session, before the session ends completely, or definitely by the next scheduled session. This will ensure that everyone feels they have an opportunity to speak up, to ask questions, to make sure that they have clarification of the material that has been presented. Also, this is very helpful for you as a facilitator, that you can, with ease and candidness, and make sure that you say, okay, we're running short on time, but if you have any more questions that we have not had an opportunity to address, then please place them in the parking lot. You want to make sure that everyone feels that they have an opportunity to be heard and to ask their questions. As a facilitator, you want to make certain that when it is time or the day of a session, that you arrive at your location 45 minutes to an hour early. This will allow you to make sure that the materials are in place. Hopefully you will have assistants, so your assistants will be there to help you to distribute materials when it is time. You'll have an opportunity to set up sign-in sheets and have more than one, so that there is not long lines waiting just to sign in on one sheet. Try to have several, and hopefully you'll have an idea of how many participants are coming based on enrollment or registration that you've done prior to the actual session day. You want to make certain that the lighting is good where you are, that the temperature is comfortable, and if you have refreshments, you want to have those refreshments set up in the back so that at the end of the session, everyone will know where that is located. Also, as you prepare your day, you want to make certain that it is a comfortable environment, that there are enough chairs, that the tables or desks are set in a warm and inviting manner. If you're just using chairs, then maybe put them in a circle or semicircle so that everyone will feel like they are a part of the session. If you're using tables, that's fine too. Just make sure maybe they're set up in a U shape or a U format so that we are able to interact and look at each other, and it's a comfortable setting. But these are some of the things that are important as a facilitator that you will be in charge of to ensure that the sessions go well. So now let's take a look at a day of how a session would go. For example, as your participants come in, you would have someone there to welcome them. As they sign in at the table, have maybe some name tags or stickers that they can write their name on, and have maybe some mints at the table. Make sure you have enough pens at the table, and then show them where they are to sit. Welcome everyone into the session. Once you're getting ready to get started, you want to introduce yourself and your team to all of the participants. And then you would like for the participants to also introduce themselves. If it is a session where there are 10 or less, then let each person stand up, introduce themselves, maybe have something like an icebreaker. Tell us your name and give us a word that describes yourself that begins with the same letter as your first name, something like that, to just break the ice and allow everyone to begin to feel comfortable and ready to get started. Once you've done the introductions, then you want to prepare them to listen to the introduction session DVD. And as I mentioned earlier, that's going to be the DVD with Reverend Jasper Williams explaining or more or less sharing with us the reason for the genesis of this fantastic curriculum of AACTS Generations Initiative, parenting from a biblical perspective. All of that will be explained in the DVD. And that DVD may be about 45 to 50 minutes, so that very well will be your very first session. At the end of that session, each session is the same format. You have your objectives. You would want to make sure that you explain what that objective is for that DVD. And then after that, you would have an opportunity for participation where the participants can give feedback. The parent workbook will also be explained and described. Hopefully each of your parents will have the workbook, will have already purchased the workbook. However, you want to make certain that you have copies just in case you have a parent that does not have the workbook yet. Or perhaps you want to have available some additional copies of the workbook so that they could purchase at the beginning of the session. But you would have a summarization at the end of this session, like all of the sessions, and then you would end it with a closing circle. The closing circle is where, at the end, you ask everyone to stand up and form a circle, join hands, and then you can ask if there's anyone that would like to volunteer and close that session out in prayer. However, as a facilitator, if no one volunteers, then you would go ahead and close that session out in prayer in the closing circle, and then let them know that you're excited and you can't wait to see them at the next session. And then the next session will follow the same format as the intro session. You will do introductions, you will go over the objectives, you will make sure that the area is prepared, you will listen to the DVD teaching, you will allow an opportunity for participation, and then at the end, close out. Each of your sessions will follow that same training work, that same format, that same framework of training. And once you get used to doing that, it will become second nature to you as a facilitator. The more you do it, the easier it will become. As a facilitator, you want to make sure that you're not presenting yourself as the expert on all of these topics, but that you're just there so that together we can learn the information that's being presented in the lessons and in the sessions on the DVDs. So you're there to just make certain that the operation of the day goes smoothly. If there is any need by anyone, you can make sure that it's addressed as well as best as you can, and then make certain that everyone is comfortable, that it is an environment for learning, growing, and sharing. So as we do an example of a day, let's pause here and take a look at the very first training DVD by Sister Neely.
Welcome, parents, to an AACTS production, African American Churches Transforming Society. We are transforming society through the Generations Initiative Project. Would you agree with this statement? The soap opera world you used to watch on television has now become the real world. I'd like to ask you this question. How do we as parents see our children at their edge of night and not have a solution with a guiding light? The Generations Initiative Project will serve as that guiding light. You are in for a treat as we impact your life and the life of your child through the Generations Initiative Project. This project has as its blueprint the Bible. The parenting curriculum is guaranteed to inspire, to create, to produce, to stir up, and to generate your child to be the best possible individual who will impact the world for Jesus Christ.
So now you've just watched the Session 1 Parental Life Insurance Policy. So after you've shown that DVD, that's the presentation component of the facilitator's framework. That's the heart of the lesson. You've shown the presentation. Afterwards is the participation component of the framework. The participation component will be, are there any questions about what you've just seen? And if the the participants don't have a question, then you as the facilitator can ask a question. And right here in your facilitator's guide, there are sample questions in case you can't think of anything. For example, what are some of the key points made by Mrs. Neely during this session? And then give the participants an opportunity to answer or give feedback. Another possible question can be, as parents, what are some of your feelings about what Elder Calloway said about parents and school? And then give the participants an opportunity to give feedback, ask clarification questions, etc. And then a third one is, what have been some of your experiences with your child's school? Now, these are sample possible questions. As a facilitator, you're going to use your best judgment so that if the first question takes up most of your time in the participation segment, you don't have to ask all 3 questions. But this is just in case you get a little stuck and you need to generate some discussion, then you have something to use kind of as a cheat sheet to get the conversation started. But that will be your participation component of the lesson. And then after that, you'll do a summarization where you'll just kind of bring it all together. You may ask one of the participants if they'd like to summarize and just tell what they've heard. If not, then you summarize the session. And then just like before, as mentioned, if this is your last session for the day, you want to close out in your closing circle, where you again invite everyone to stand in a circle, gather in a circle, ask if anyone would like to pray. If you don't get a volunteer, you go ahead, you pray, close it out, but you also want to make certain that you invite them back to the very next session. So before I close this training session, I'd like to talk a little bit more about the 4 bonus DVDs that's included in your curriculum guide. The first bonus DVD covers the topic of divorce. This is a powerful and candid interview of Reverend Williams and his 2 sons when he asks them about sharing their perspective of how the divorce of Reverend and their mother affected them. The second bonus DVD is with Elder Calloway. This DVD covers information about parent participation in the local schools. The third DVD is also with Elder Calloway, and it covers the good and the bad of parenting with media, social media, and the internet, how those can be used in positive ways and how it's used in negative ways. The fourth DVD is an interview with Elder Chief Bell. This DVD is also equally as powerful, and it covers the community, the church, and law enforcement's relationship about open communication and garnering a positive relationship between those 3 entities, the community, law enforcement, and the church. These DVDs are considered bonus DVDs that are located in your packet and again can be used to enhance, to emphasize the lessons that are already outlined and to help your sessions be all the more powerful. Thank you again for watching.